Okay, so today we're going to review slope-intercept form as well as all of the components of the y equals mx plus b equation and how it works when we look at a graph and various representations of the equation. There are certain things I need to assume that you know at this point. So these are things you should know. So these are the things that absolutely should be known at the beginning of the video. When I have an equation, y equals mx plus b, this is my slope-intercept formula. In general, b and m can be a negative number. So there may be a case where m is negative or b is negative. But your x and your y are never negative. M, being the slope, determines the angle of trajectory of my line. So it tells me if my line goes in this direction, or if it goes in this direction, or if it goes in this direction, right? It can go in multiple different directions, and my slope tells me that. And the way it tells me that is by representing the vertical change in the line over the horizontal change in the line, or rise over run. To actually calculate rise over run, you can use two coordinate points. You can use xy1 and xy2. So in order to actually solve for slope, you will need two coordinate points in order to calculate that number. The b is my y-intercept. And what that tells me is if I have a graph, b tells me at what point does my line intersect the y-axis. So that's that point right there. Okay? And b can be found by figuring out what y is when x is 0. So if x is 0, what is y or what is b? Okay, and that makes sense because when I'm looking at my x-axis, when x equals 0, that's where I'm looking for my y-intercept. Okay? Numbers in front of my variables, so my m per se, when I'm looking at my linear function. If I'm looking at y equals mx plus b, my m is what's called a coefficient, and that's a math term for a number that comes before a variable, or a number preceding a variable. Coefficients always are multiplied by that variable. So if I have mx, what that says to me is m times x. If I have 2x, that means 2 times x. Negative 7x means negative 7 times x. There can be coefficients before your x value in a linear equation, but you do not want a coefficient before your y value. That includes a negative sign. So when I'm thinking about a negative y, what this really means is negative 1 times y. And I do not want this. So whenever you see a negative sign in front of a y or a coefficient in front of a y, just maybe a 2y, you need to remove the coefficient. So you need to remove the 2 in order to have it properly in slope-intercept form. Okay, so those are kind of the general things that you should know about slope-intercept form, about slope, y-intercept, and all of the equations and formulas. So if any of that was confusing, please go back and watch the video again. Make sure you have all the notes. The second piece of this video is going to demonstrate some of the types of problems that we went over in class today. So the first type of problem is when we have to change an equation to slope-intercept form. So changing to slope-intercept form. And slope-intercept form is equal to y equals mx plus b. Now, some people were confused because their equations ended up looking like y equals mx minus b. That's okay. That just means that b is negative. And that is okay. So you should not be concerned if your equation looks like y equals mx minus b or y equals negative mx minus b. That is fine as well. So let's do one example, 9x minus 7y equals negative 7. Now, I did this with a lot of you in class today. We talked about building the seesaw underneath your equal sign. So when I build a seesaw, what that means is whatever I have to do to one side, I have to do it to the other side. When I look at my equation now, I have my 9x on the side of the equation that I don't want it to be on. So I'm going to move it over to the right side of the equation. And the way I'm going to do that is I have to turn that 9x into a 0 value. So in order to make 9x equal to 0, I subtract 9x, right? Just like 9 minus 9 would equal 0, 9x minus 9x would equal. Because I do it on the left side, I have to do it on the right side, so I subtract 9x, okay? Negative 7 and my negative 9x are not like terms, so I should not combine them. I should leave them as separate pieces of my equation. So now I rewrite what I have, and I have negative 7y equals negative 7 minus 9x. Now, my equation is pretty much in the right order. The only piece that's a little tricky is that my negative 7 and my negative 9x are in the wrong position. So I can switch the order because as long as I keep the signs, it doesn't matter what order I write them in. So when I say equals, I can say negative 9x minus 7, and that would be the same equation as I had before. The only issue I have left is that there is a coefficient in front of the y, and I don't want it to be there. So I'm going to divide. And the reason I'm dividing is because negative 7y is the same as saying negative 7 times y. So in order to separate it, I need to divide by negative 7. Whatever I do to one side, again, I have to do to the other side. So negative 7 divided by negative 7 is equal to 1. 1 times y is just y, so I can simplify that down right away. On the other side of my equation, negative 9 divided by negative 7. There's not a very nice way for me to simplify that, so I'm going to leave it just as it is. However, I am going to take in consideration that a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so I'm going to write it as 9 over 7x. The next piece will be negative 7 divided by negative 7. So now I'm left with a 1. Negative divided by a negative is a positive, so I'm going to add that 1. Now when I take a look at my equation, I have y equals 9/7 x plus 1. This is absolutely in the correct form of y equals mx plus b. So I am all set, and I have my final answer right there. We'll do one more practice equation that works on this skill. And we'll do one from the worksheet that you guys had in class today. So let's do negative y plus 5x minus 12 equals 0. Some people were confused by this because of the 0, and we'll talk about that when we get there. The first couple pieces you want to move over to the other side of the equation will be obviously the mx component and your b component. So in order to make positive 5x into a 0, I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. 5x minus 5x equals 0. And I can bring down whatever pieces of that equation I have left. So the negative y, I'm going to ignore the 0, minus 12 equals, I have a 0 on the side of the equation, but 0 means 0. It's just a placeholder. So once I have an actual value on that side, I can get rid of it. I can just ignore it. So what's left over there is the negative 5x. The next piece that needs to be moved to the right side of the equation is the negative 12. In order to get rid of negative 12, I have to add 12 to both sides. Negative 12 plus 12 is 0, so I'm going to let that go and bring down the negative y equals negative 5x plus 12. Now, for the most part, this equation looks like it's in the correct form. However, again, I'm looking at a coefficient on my y. And remember, when we talked about notation on the first page, we remember that negative y is the same as negative 1 times y. So if I rewrite my equation, I realize I have to divide both sides by that negative 1 in order to get rid of it. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 is just 1, so I'm left with y equals. Negative 5 divided by negative 1 is positive 5x, and positive 12 divided by negative 1 is going to be a negative 12. So my final answer is y is equal to 5x minus 12. Okay. The next thing I wanted to do was just remind you that when you are given the value of m and b in an equation, for example, if m is equal to 2/5 and b is equal to 4, and they say, write the equation. The only thing it's asking you to do is to actually write out y equals m is 2/5, x plus b is 4. That is it. That is all the question's asking. You guys are really overcomplicating that situation today. So I just wanted to remind you that that was really straightforward. When you're looking at a graph, it will ask you to write the equation of the line and what that means is that you need to find the m and you need to find the b. Well, the b should be easy. The b is your y-intercept, and it's wherever that line crosses the y-axis. So whenever you're looking at the intersecting point, in this example specifically, b is equal to 4. For your m, you have to count out rise over run. Okay, again, rise over run. And in this example, I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, and because I'm going up, it's positive, and I'm going to the right 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, and because I'm going to the right, again, it's positive. So my rise over run equals 4 over 4, which is simplified down to 1, and I can write my equation as y equals 1x plus 4, just substituting in the m value in addition to the b value. Okay, those are the two ways that you can write the equation of a line. You just want to be looking at the graph and identifying what is your b and what is your m. Overall, those two components of the linear equation are the most important because given those two components, you can know a lot of information about the line and you will graph it exactly every time.